Current estimates tell us that nearly 46 million people in the world today are trapped in slavery. Most of us go through our daily lives unaware that right below the surface, or right around the corner, someone has fallen victim to this terrible evil. Men, women, children, trafficked, sold, used. It's not okay. Something has to be done. That's exactly what Dave Batstone thought. That's what he thinks. And that's why he's doing something about it, bringing together his expertise in business, his creativity, and his commitment to the overlooked and the abused. Dave is founder and president at Not for Sale, an impressive organization that helped more than 61,000 victims of slavery last year alone. It's my honor to welcome Dave Batstone to the program today, right here on the Edge of Adventure podcast. This is where adventure meets purpose, where we get to know those who live life beyond status quo. My name is Adam Asher, and this is the Edge of Adventure podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Edge of Adventure podcast. My name is Adam Asher. Thanks for being here today. It's always great to have you with us, whether you're watching the video version on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, or if you're tuning in to the audio version on the audio podcast platform of your choice. Just want to thank you all. Appreciate you joining us. And for more information, always, you can look us up at theedgeofadventure.com. Today, as always, a very important interview, very special guest. And we want to introduce you to him right now. Dave Batstone is joining us from an organization called Not for Sale. Dave, thanks for joining me today for this very important conversation.
Hey, Adam, it's really good to be on the show. I love the name, by the way, The Edge of Adventure. And I look forward to digging into some of our adventures.
Thank you. Thanks for that. You know, the Edge of Adventure, right? Where does that name even come from? Well, it comes from this concept that our lives are better lived when we are brave and we're willing to undertake the adventure that is life, wherever that might take us, and whatever purpose. That's the other word I always like to bring up, is just doing something that matters in life, finding that purpose that we're here for, and making a difference for somebody else. So adventure and purpose are the two things I always like to bring up, and that's going to apply in a very, very real way to your work at Not for Sale. So let's start there. Give the audience an overview of what you guys do and how important it is.
Not for Sale, Adam, addresses human trafficking, so modern slavery all over the world today. And we are an organization that has three strategies. One is that we intervene. We get people out of situations of captivity and slavery. So it might be an agricultural field, it could be a factory, or it might even be a commercial sex brothel. And really what is getting them out. Second is providing some kind of security and safety and service to help them restore their lives. And then finally, an on-ramp to a future. And we're very entrepreneurial with those on-ramps, which we'll talk about today, I'm sure. But so it's the whole circle. It's intervention, services, shelter, safety, and then moving into the skills and opportunity for a future.
Dave, you have a very interesting story. I think we need to delve into that first and put this into context so people understand who you are, who you were, the types of skills and the success you had in the business world, and then when you were confronted with this need, and it weighed on you in a very personal way. You weren't able to walk away from it and just ignore it. There's something about this that you said, no, I have to do something. Walk us through that when you were first confronted with just how immense or how commonplace this dreadful problem is.
Yeah, Adam, it wasn't a theoretical issue for me. Strangely enough, I was a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, so not many people you would anticipate running a charity like Not for Sale comes out of Silicon Valley. But I discovered or learned about trafficking in my own backyard when I found out that my local restaurant that I used to go to regularly was the center of a human trafficking ring that had brought over 500 young girls from the area of Bangalore, India, into the United States for the purpose of forced labor, first in the restaurant. and then taken out to fruit and vegetable fields and brothels in Northern California. And it was such a shock to me. And as you say, it became something that weighed on me. There are so many people, I'm sure, that visited that restaurant, and I can't even begin to tell you why I felt like I could not walk away from that. It was like a calling. It was something that I needed to do something about, and then that changed my life immensely.
So, this is the first thing I think of, right? So many of us, we can go through our daily lives. And, in the West, we've got comfortable lives. We go to restaurants and we go shopping and we go about our days and we worry about the things we worry about, right? And then you're saying that sort of happening beneath the surface is this dark and dreadful world that maybe we wouldn't even know exists, and yet it is prevalent. Am I following you here? I mean, is that true?
And it probably that was one of the things that disturbed me most, was that I didn't have the eyesight or the lens to see what was going on around me. And it really was a gas leak in the apartment where the trafficker kept, 20 girls into an apartment. One girl died and several injured. So it was on the front page of the newspaper that in San Francisco that this trafficking ring was happening. I said, wait a second, I've been going to that restaurant for years. So I think that was part of the thing that really struck me, was that it was right in front of me, but I didn't see it. So I felt like I needed to learn more. And I took a leave of absence from my venture capital bank, and I just went around the world. I followed the money. I went from San Francisco to India, and then I went from Los Angeles, where I discovered some young girls have been forced, over 100 girls have been forced to a sewing factory in Los Angeles. So I went from there to Thailand and traced their story. So I went all over the world for a year trying to discover how hidden this was and how obvious it was. So, and the money helped lead me on my way.
This is The Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher. Dave Batstone is my guest today. He is the founder and president at Not for Sale. And one of the things that I discuss and we sort of delve into on The Edge of Adventure, the platform, is this concept that we all have a skill set given from our experiences and the things that we like and the things that we've learned to do. And we can, if we're willing, we can apply that skill set and those special sets of gifts to do something that matters and to help other people. Let's talk about how you have done that, because you said you were a venture capitalist, very successful in business. You understand how to build businesses and make them work and make them profitable, this sort of thing. And you put that to use for Not for Sale. Help us connect those dots.
Yeah, I have to admit, Adam, the first 5 years of Not for Sale, so it was like from 2007 to 2012, I almost feel like I opened my heart and shut down my brain. And what I mean by that is that I wanted to do something about this kind of concerning, burning issue I had for people in captivity. But what I did is that I turned to business models that are not very functional. Charity is great generosity, but it's not a very good business model for scaling change. And so I would come on your show. I would ask people, please give me a donation. I would go and build a shelter. I would create some services. Then I come back again on your show and I have to ask all your audience for another donation. And they might think, wait, we gave you money last year. And I go, I know, I spent it. That's what we do at a charity. So there's no recurring revenue that would grow that business and reinvest that mission. So after about 5 years, I have to admit, I felt like I was at the end of a river. We had shelters in Romania and Peru and all over the world, including Thailand, Vietnam. And so I felt like I was at the end of a river, pulling these bodies of these young kids out. They're drowning, they're flailing. And I said, I need to go upstream. I need to go to the top of the river. And how do I stop that from happening from the first start, right? So that was one thing. And the other is I need to change the business model and use my skills, as you say, because I wasn't using my skills. I was just doing what every other person could do by starting a nonprofit charity. So in the world of Silicon Valley, we use technology, we use capital, and we use talent, the best talent, the meaningful capital, and we use cutting edge technology to create companies that grow and companies that are recurring in their revenue back to the business. And so I said, why don't I apply those skills and that lesson that I've learned all over the years to the things I care about, like human trafficking? And it could be global warming, it could be whatever, members of your audience care about. Imagine if you use the best business model rather than the worst business model. And that's what I sought to do.
From Not for Sale, Dave Batstone joining us today, telling us about his special gifts and this heart that he has to make a difference and to help end human trafficking. These are people and children. What does it mean to free a child from human trafficking? What does it really mean to that child?
I like to think of the fact of being able to make decisions about your future and write your own story and have freedom to pursue a destiny, and to take that away from a child, to steal their future and to force them to work behind a sewing machine or to sell their bodies in a karaoke bar, men coming from all over the world to do things to them that they would be arrested for doing in their own country. And what it is it desecrates their dignity. And I got to tell you, probably why I then went on, and now it's my life passion to fight human trafficking. It was the relationships I built with these kids and with their teenagers and even young women. And so I still today, even though Not for Sale this year in 2020, the last year we assisted 61,000 individuals, but it's still the faces of the people I meet. That's the motivation, because it is personal. Otherwise, it's a number. I could say 61,000 people, but if I tell you about Nagarajan in India, or I can tell you about Atu in northern Thailand, these are people that are in my mind and my memory, and I can't give up on them. A cause that is theoretical to you, you get tired and you burn out or whatever, you give up. But when it's people who are relying on you, you can't quit. You have to find a solution for them.
You talked, Dave, about 3 stages in this process. The first being intervening, second phase being sort of restoration, and then the future. Go into a little more detail about those 3 phases as Not for Sale works so tirelessly to help these children and these families, and to intervene, but then also to help restore them and then to give them a future.
Well, the intervention, we have rescue centers in areas of high trafficking. And, basically we will work when we can with local police authorities. And if not, then we have our own rescue teams that work independently. If many of your audience has seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, the young kids who are forced to beg. Well, our project in northern Thailand started by getting these young kids who were forced beggars off the streets or forced to be in a karaoke bar. So, it's so funny. The first woman I met who really changed my whole mission and commitment is in northern Thailand. Her name is Krunam. When she discovered that these young kids were being sold for their bodies at commercial sex at age 11, she literally ran into a karaoke bar. She grabbed 2 little kids under her arms and ran out. So it wasn't the most sophisticated intervention strategy. And of course, we are much more sophisticated in later years, but it just shows, intervention is that dramatic sometimes, just getting them out of a situation. If we can work with the law enforcement, which we have in the United States, and functioning culture where law enforcement is on the side of law, then we will work preferably with those institutions. But whatever it takes to get someone out of slavery, we do that. And then it's, say the kids in northern Thailand, we started a village in northern Thailand for 150 kids from ages 4 up till 16. And it, everything about their life. We gave them a place to stay. We got them into schools, and we go all the way up to university. And many of the kids that we started with 14 years ago are now university graduates. So it really is a matter of providing tangible ways to keep them safe and take care of their lives. And then the third about a future that we can go into, because this is kind of the special sauce of Not for Sale, that most people wouldn't even think of as a charity, but it's a bit of a different twist.
All right, well then, let's go into that, because that is what makes Not for Sale so unique. And I think it ties in directly to your experience and your expertise and all that you bring to this project and this passion. But yes, indeed, everybody, if you're tuning in, if you're listening on the radio, or if you are following the audio podcast. Just to remind you, we're listening to this interview with Dave Batstone, and he is with Not for Sale. He's the founder and president. And Dave, this has been something you've been devoted to now for, I think, 14, 15 years, something like that.
Exactly. It's become my life passion.
All right, sir. Well, then tell us, that as we think about the future for these who have been rescued, because that's important, right? This problem for so many started because they didn't have a future, didn't think they had a future. They didn't have the options maybe that a lot of us take for granted. But by providing a future, you're providing and renewing their hope. So tell us about that.
Well, we began to look at some of the root causes, and we found that in areas where there was a lack of rule of law and there also was economic deprivation, that made people more vulnerable. That's where trafficking was happening. So I decided to say, okay, I'm going to bring the best talent in the world to address these problems. And I called 50 of my closest friends who've been successful in their life. It was the founder of Twitter. It was the founder of the largest online healthcare company, a baseball player for the San Francisco Giants. And I said, look, you've been successful in your lives. Help me brainstorm a solution for a particular area in the world. We chose the Amazon of Peru. We're not for sale. We had a shelter, and so many kids from the Amazon were ending up in our shelter, having to rescue them off the streets of Lima. And so I said, whatever idea you come up with, we'll put into practice. And the stupidest promise I ever made, because the winning idea that they came up with was something I knew nothing about. It was to start a beverage company that would source wonderful herbs from the area of the Amazon, like matcha and guasana leaf and maca, and take these great ingredients, put them in a beverage, have an economic platform for the people of the Amazon, sell it in U.S. grocery stores, return a percentage of the revenue back to the communities for infrastructure. Wonderful idea, unless you're the guy on Monday morning who has to start a beverage company. So I thought, okay, what would I do if I was in Silicon Valley? I wouldn't just go find a social worker who always wanted to create a beverage. I'd find the best beverage maker in the world and convince that person that they should work with me, and I would pay them whatever Coca-Cola or Pepsi would want to pay them. And that's what I did. I went out and found this guy. His name was Paulo Hawken, paid him a good amount of money, but also he had the vision, and we worked together to create this beverage. Now, here's the great story. This is 8 years ago. This is our first company where we would create employment on the ground, create a marketing plan that helps people know that when they buy our product, they're also fighting human trafficking. And then we're going to turn resources back to the communities. 8 years ago, it was just a concept. Today, Rebel, REBBLL, roots, extract, bark, berry, leaves, the number one organic health beverage in America. So we went from starting this idea, and we were going to source our ingredients in the Amazon, and we have, but now we're sourcing in 33 countries, choosing ingredients based on where we can have the most impact, not the cheapest ingredient, and then returning money back. We've invested over $1 million from the sale of Rebel back into those communities. And so this was like, wow, this is how you scale. Helping 100 kids is awesome, but now helping 50,000 people through this economic engine, that's how you scale change over time. And so it's taking the DNA of your mission and put it into business.
How many businesses or companies do you have now that, or have you started or been involved in starting to help affect this kind of change?
So we now have 10 companies over the last 8 years, and they range from a beverage. And now we are much more into technology platforms. And we have 4 companies in renewable energy, hydrogen and solar, and also electric batteries. So it's a broad range, but in every company, Adam, is the mission of Not for Sale is embedded, and also the company itself is designing a world in which we believe in. Now, they're driven by profit models. They're driven by, we have to be excellent in what we do as businesses. It's not like we get a pass just because we're doing good, but we infuse our values and the social mission of Not for Sale into the DNA of every company. And, we've been pretty successful at that because I think people want to be a part of doing good by doing well.
You're actually joining us for this interview here on the Edge of Adventure from Stockholm, Sweden. And you've got some projects over there in Europe. What can you tell us about the ones you're working on right now?
working on right now a project where it involves renewable energy. Europe is a little bit ahead in the United States in imagining the deployment of alternative fuels for transport and for, say, energy systems. So basically, the concept that we have is that we take to a county or a municipality and we say, look, we can take your emissions for your carbon emissions from trucks, buses, tractors, equipment that are farm equipment, and we can turn it into renewable energy driven vehicles. And so you can have a zero emissions carbon for your city. And this is getting great interest here. And so what we're bringing together are the just business companies that we invest in, and we pulled them together as a solution for a complete city or region. I want to bring this to America after we have gotten a foundation here in Europe. And I think America will be ready for this in another 3 years. It's a little bit early right now to have that switch take place.
Dave, jumping back now, you were talking about Thailand, you were talking about Peru, and I want to be sure we don't miss this. You guys have centers or villages in these locations, at least a few around the world. Talk to me about those. They exist for what purpose, and what kind of services or protection are the people getting in those locations where you guys have these focuses?
Yep, we're in 12 countries today. And we have teams on the ground and we have facilities to give protection. And really it's to get the victims of human trafficking away from the danger that they were in, and then start to, deal with the trauma and start to, to go from being a slave to now having security and safety and a possibility of a future. That doesn't happen overnight. There's a psychological transition that needs to take place. So we work on that. I'll give you an example of every project we do something entrepreneurial. Because we're really bent on the fact that the past has really been a Band-Aid on the kind of issues like human trafficking or malaria. And so we want to move forward into solution-based, not just symptom-based. But in Holland, for instance, we work with young women who get out of slavery in the red light district and other areas of Holland. And there's a shelter where they can stay. But then we started a culinary school. And we worked with the Naked Chef, with Jamie Oliver, to design this culinary school. And we give these women the opportunity to learn how to be chefs, how to be caterers, how to learn a whole new business. And then we started a high-end restaurant in Amsterdam called Dignita, or Dignity. And many of the chefs and many of the caterers are women who come out of our culinary school. It was so successful, it was so popular that we started a second one, and then a third one, and now a fourth one. And soon we'll be starting restaurants outside of Holland in other European countries. But the concept is it's a great restaurant, and you want to come because it's just fantastic food. We always get the best chefs to work with our culinary school students. And now we have a way of funding all of our work for the culinary school, for the shelters. We're able to do that through the proceeds that come from our restaurant. And this is the kind of self-sustaining, growing industry or businesses we want to create so that goodness can multiply.
Joining us today here on The Edge of Adventure, Dave Batstone from a wonderful, remarkable, effective organization called Not for Sale. He's the founder and president there. And also from Just Business. You can look them up at justbusiness.is, right? Justbusiness.is. Okay. Dave, though, what would be the message that the audience needs to hear?
I think for many people that listen to a meaningful podcast like this, they might say, well, what is the purpose of my life? Or what is the meaning of life? And, for me, and how do I do something? I want to do something more than just simply pursue a materialistic dream that has marginal benefits in terms of my ultimate happiness. And I think we say, well, so what is the meaning? How do I find my purpose? And in a way, I think it's the wrong question, because I really believe that we don't ask life questions, or we don't ask God questions, or depending on your whole philosophy of either a higher power or a universe. But we are being asked all the time. Things come into your life, like for me, it came into my life in a restaurant that I wasn't even looking for human trafficking. It found me. And really, the purpose or meaning of life is how you respond to what life brings you. You don't need to go into the Himalayas or go around the world to find the meaning of life. It will find you where you are. And the answer you give to those challenges, what life brings you or God brings you, your response is your meaning. That is your purpose. You're starting your story. Just be courageous to take one step to respond to that challenge, to that question. And when you take that one step, don't worry, there's another step waiting for you.
Indeed. So many opportunities. And we've all been given those opportunities, and we've been given a unique skill set. And sometimes, people, they're not even aware of the opportunity. They have to stop and think about it. Hang on, I've got these opportunities. I've got these skills. How can I put those two together? Do something that will make the world a better place, serve somebody else and help somebody. And that's, of course, the heart and the soul of the Edge of Adventure. And it's why we get to meet great people and learn about great organizations like you guys. So let me move on to a different type of question, Dave. What really bothers you?
I think you're touching on that is the passivity, the underestimation of the gift that I can give to the world as an individual. And I think there's a certain paralysis, you say, well, I really don't know enough, so I can't do anything. And then we start learning about what the challenges that our globe faces right now, or even our local communities. And then it's like, well, now I know too much. I can't do anything. I feel like I'm unprepared or underwhelmed. So the result either way is paralysis. And I guess, I think of the opportunity that you talked about. I talk it as a vocation. Now, that's different than a career. A career is how I make money to live. But a vocation is, how does my skill sets or what I've been given, my talents, my gifts, how do they meet my passion? And that's your vocation. And how do you exercise your passion? Like, what are things you really love to do and you're talented to do? And how do you deliver those to the world? When you learn how to deliver those to the world, you have a vocation, and it's your vocation, no one else's. And so I guess I get annoyed, but it's almost like someone having so much wealth and then feeling they're poor. And I think it's the squandering of the wealth that we have individually. I mean that in a metaphorical sense. That it's annoying to me, and I just feel like I want to shake people to say, you know what, you're not taking advantage of a vocation that's going to give you a purpose and a happiness, I believe.
All right, let's turn that coin over. Look at the other side of the coin and ask the question about hope. Is there hope, and what is it in your vocation that makes you think there is hope or restores your hope to some degree?
It's a great question, Adam, because there's 45 million slaves in the world, more or less, is the projected figure. And last year we helped 60,000 people. I could leave then that year feeling depressed because we just haven't helped millions of people. And for me, I don't know why, I get more inspired by the goodness that we can deliver, the hope that we can bring. And that motivates and inspires me to do more, rather than be overwhelmed by the enormity of the tasks that we're not doing or the people we could help. So I find it very specific. I celebrate every victory, whether last week, a young woman I met 14 years ago, she just graduated from university and she was without any passport or citizenship. In fact, most of the kids that we work with in northern Thailand are stateless. No country will claim them. That's why they're so easily trafficked. But if we can get them into university and they can graduate, they can become a citizen of Thailand. And then they have all the rights that come with that, health and job. And so this young girl who I knew 14 years ago, she graduated from university, became a Thai citizen. That's going to fuel me for a month or 2 months, that one event. We help a whole village with a economic platform. That's going to help me for another year. So you only get inspired by doing things that inspire you. It's kind of a virtuous circle. You say, I'm not inspired. Well, it's probably because you're not doing a damn thing. If you actually did something, you'd be inspired to do something. So I guess that's why I say that one step leads to your inspiration for the next step. But it can't happen in a vacuum. You can't imagine hope. You produce hope.
Dave, how can we help? What what do you guys need, or what does the world need? How can we help to help you guys, I guess, is part of the question, but also, is there something that can be done to help stop this darkness?
Yeah, I think it's there's a range of ways that people can get involved. One is in their community, becoming more aware of what's maybe just a little bit underneath the surface, and being an advocate for the rights of those who are being taken advantage of and maybe even trafficked. The next level is, for not for sale, we have all of these companies now. A beautiful thing is that, I used to say, I don't want to wear people's tragedy. I don't want to drink their suffering in the morning when I have my coffee, and I don't want to stand on their dreams with my designer shoes, because slavery is embedded in so many supply chains, the ways that products are made. The great news is you don't have to be anymore. And if you support the products that not-for-sale companies have, and other companies like us, we're not the only ones, but vote with your consumption, and make a difference with your consumption. If you are someone who likes to invest, Just Business is an investment company, and we have opportunity for people to invest in our companies and get a return, a financial return that's quite handsome usually, but also it gives us an opportunity to grow and scale companies that make a difference in the world. So I guess it's doing what you do every day by consuming, by investing, by being a citizen in your community, but shifting your focus towards a higher purpose.
Where did you guys get the name Just Business? What's the significance behind the name?
Yeah, I felt like I felt when I tell someone I'm an investor or a business guy, their assumption is that I'm a greedy bastard who doesn't care about anybody, right? So it's about business, and it's just business, but at the same time, it's justice business. It's business that you can believe in. And I do believe that business has the opportunity to deliver solutions that a government or individuals cannot do. And I want to see companies that have a higher standard, that are we just or not in the way that we practice our operations, in the way that we engage with our communities. And I want to see more just businesses in the world.
This is the Edge of Adventure podcast. My name is Adam Asher, and whether you're listening to the audio podcast or catching the video version or listening on the radio, I want to thank you for taking the time. And, Dave, you've definitely encouraged me. Some of the things you've said, just, about the platform, about the Edge of Adventure, I find that very encouraging, that a guy like you would get it. You'd understand why we do what we do over here. And this relationship that we have with the audience is very special. There's so many people from around the world that join this and that follow this. And those of you out there that are listening and watching, you know who you are. I'm talking about you, because you're always so supportive. And my request today of you, as always, would just be to start by reaching out to Not For Sale, and you can look them up at notforsalecampaign.org, notforsalecampaign.org, and encourage them. Let them know that you're out there, that you believe in what they're doing, and whatever help you might be able to show them, encourage you to do that. And then also the other endeavor, which goes hand in hand with Dave's heart for Not For Sale, is Just Business, and you can look them up at justbusiness.is. That's justbusiness.is to find out more. And you'll find Not For Sale on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at NFS. That's how you'll find them. But I'm sure you just do a quick search. You'll find them there. Connect with them, share their content out, and most importantly, let them know that you're out there and that you appreciate what they do. Dave Batstone has been my guest today. He's the founder and president at Not For Sale. He's an awesome guy. He has stayed up late for this live interview because he's over in Stockholm, Sweden, and I'm here at the Edge of Adventure headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. So a little bit of a time difference. I appreciate you, Dave. I mean, honestly, appreciate what you do, your approach, who you are, and it is always inspirational to meet somebody who is taking whatever their skill set and experience is and applying it somewhere to help meet needs and make the world a better place. So thank you, Dave. Anything else? What else do we need to know?
There's a great movie called 360 Degrees South, and it's about the founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard. And a young man decides he wants to pursue the path that Yvon, who 30 years before had followed as a young man finding his purpose. So this movie, 360 Degrees South, I encourage people to watch it. But I tell you, one thing that's really funny, Adam, is that in the adventure, things go wrong and they fall apart. And so Yvonne looks at this young guy and he goes, this is fantastic. The adventure begins once everything goes wrong. And so I want to encourage your audience that if things fall apart, if things don't look like they're working out, don't worry. Your adventure is just beginning. It's not ending. And so it's not a matter of always being successful. I mean, I've been talking about the achievements we have, but believe me, we've had plenty of failures. But your adventure begins once you can accept the fact that failure is a part of your road.
Thank you so much, Dave. Dave Batstone, founder and president of Not For Sale. Look them up at notforsalecampaign.org or the other endeavor, justbusiness.is. We've learned about both today, both very important in helping to end human trafficking. Thank you, Dave, for your time, and just appreciate what you're doing. God bless, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Adam. Really appreciate it.
My name is Adam Asher, and you've been listening to the Edge of Adventure podcast. To learn more, log on to theedgeofadventure.com. And while you're there, check out the video series where we go off the grid to discover some of the great things people are doing all around the globe to make the world a better place. I call it my search for adventure and purpose. You'll find us on social media too. Just look for the hashtag #TheEdgeOfAdventure. Thanks for joining us. Always great to have you with us as together we aim to live life for something bigger than ourselves. This is The Edge of Adventure, where we go beyond status quo.